writer of this post only went by the letter G, so we'll call her Gina and her boyfriend Doug. It's the spring of 2007. Gina and Doug are road tripping their way down from New York to Florida for a music festival. And they're driving south along the highway on the east side of Central Florida when they pull into a rest area because Doug needs to take a nap. He'd been driving all day when he decided that he needs to take a quick rest before he gets back behind the wheel. And they just bought this van, and Doug doesn't think that Gina can handle maneuvering it. So he has been doing all the driving. Doug parks, jumps in the back of the van, lies down on the futon mattress, and tells Gina, "Leave me alone," and then proceeds to pass out from exhaustion. And Gina's pretty freaked out because it's late. It's dark, and the rest area is unmanned, locked up, and dark inside. The restrooms are closed, and the small rest area building is surrounded in the back by dark woods. And there are 4 other cars in the parking lot, but no sign of any drivers. So Gina assumes that they all probably had nap attacks as well. Now, normally, under these circumstances, Gina would have never stepped foot outside of that van. Her instincts tell her, do not get out of the van. But she had taken some ibuprofen that had given her some brutal nausea. She needed some pretzels, so she musters up all of her courage, opens the passenger door, and squeezes out in the space between their van and the car that's parked right next to them. And as soon as Gina has a clear line of sight to the front of the rest area building, she sees the thing. And she sees it clearly. Straight ahead, she sees the brightly lit front facade of the rest area building. To the left of the doors is it. To the right of the doors is a vending machine. Immediately, it communicates with her. Gina's flooded with what she considers to be a telepathic message from the creature.
I cannot be seen. I cannot be seen. I must travel by night and exist in the darkness. I cannot be seen. I cannot be seen. I cannot be seen.
And Gina feels an enormous wave of compassion for the being rather than fear, which would seem the more logical reaction to anybody reading this story. But for some reason, Gina's brain only categorizes it as one thing initially, an outsider worthy of compassion. Its skin is pure chalk white, not the skin tone white, but the color white. Its eyes are several times larger than a human's. It has 2 little air holes for a nose and just a little slit for a mouth. Its frame is completely concealed by its enormous, long, black hooded robe. And it looks as though it's quite gaunt underneath, pretty frail looking. And it's sitting on its butt, knees bent, back up against the brick wall to the left of the front door of the rest area. And it's sitting with its back very straight, tall, and erect. And it seems in awe of her. Or maybe it's just in awe of the fact that she is actually approaching it. It looks vaguely like a human. Very vaguely. Its face is snake-like, and its eyes are right on her. Gina throws a little everyday smile in its direction. And then she does something kind of strange. She continues to walk toward the rest area. Even after seeing it, she walks towards the rest area building, closer to it. She walks forward about 20 feet from the rear of the van to the rest area steps, up the 20 or so steps, and to the right side where the vending machine is. And her thoughts at this point are a little bizarre in retrospect. Gina feels bad for the thing. She doesn't want it to feel different. And she knows that sounds hilariously quaint if we are indeed talking about an interdimensional being. But she doesn't want to run back to the van because she doesn't want to hurt its feelings. She doesn't want to make it feel like a freak. It's already told her that it can't be seen due to the way that some people will react. She wants it to know that she doesn't judge it for the way it looks, and that she is willing to come to terms with its horrific appearance in order to extend it some humanity. So it is with that very bizarrely strong conviction to be righteous and humane to it that Gina continues to the vending machine. And she actually gets her pretzels. Make no mistake, her stomach was churning the entire time, and she actually manages to use the vending machine with her back to it. Pretzels in hand, she spins around to take another look at it before descending the stairs. It is at this moment that pure terror ripples through Gina. She is closer to it now, probably about 15 feet away, and she can see now that there is definitely no way that this thing is human. It is staring right at her like a wide-eyed insect. It is still in exactly the same position, except that it has swiveled its head a little bit to look at Gina as her position has changed. It looks like an alien. It looks like a demon. It was not human. Its huge, one-dimensional eyes do not have whites, and they're almond-shaped like the classic alien eyes that we all know. And it's then that Gina realizes that this thing is extremely tall, unthinkably tall. And although it is sitting and she is standing, its head is still higher than hers. And at first, she thought it was 9, maybe 10 feet tall. But then she does the math in her head. She's about 5'4". So if its head is above hers, that means from its butt to the top of its head is probably about 6 feet. And from its butt to its knees, maybe another 4 or 5 feet. And from its knees to its feet, maybe another 3. That means it is about 14 feet tall. Its huge eyes are fixed on her totally with fascination, alarm, and the most intense focus. Just the way her cat looks at something right before it pounces. When Gina made the decision to climb the stairs toward it instead of retreating back to the van, she thought it was sitting on something, and that's why its head was up so high. And now, from this closer perspective, she can see it's not sitting on anything other than its butt. If she had realized that the creature was this tall from the start, she very well may not have ever gone up those stairs. And once the ripple of terror recedes, Gina responds by smiling the way you smile at a stranger when you catch eyes on the bus. She shoots it a casual, innocuous little, "Hey, how you doing?" smile. Why and how she acted as though things were completely normal, she can't explain. She has never acted so cool in her life. Judging by its body language, Gina guesses that it was resting, but she has no clue. Maybe it's in the middle of something far more sinister. It did not look like a mutant or an experiment. It looked ancient, timeless, placeless, graceful, horrible, and also firmly in this dimension. It is not a hazy vision in the slightest. The lighting is not dim. It is not even a remotely ethereal experience. The extremely bright lights that illuminate the front facade of the rest area building reveal every contour of this entity. If only she had been closer, she could have provided more detail about its facial features. And as Jean is walking back to the van, she quickly strategizes about how to make sure that her fear does not paralyze her and keep her from getting back into the van safely. And she decides not to look back or even around her, because she knows that if she sees that it has moved, that it is getting closer, that she will never be able to get those keys into the door lock. But Gina does get the keys in the lock. And she unlocks the door, opens it up, climbs inside, closes the door behind her, and locks it. And she screams, "We need to leave!" And they do. And as they drive away, about 90 seconds since the last time Gina actually saw it, she looks out the window and it's gone. There's nothing where it had been, just brick wall and concrete floor. Gina begins to tell Doug that she just had the most ultimate experience. And although Doug is a guy who goes on and on about the Vedas and Madame Blavatsky and such, His only response was a trite, "We're in Florida. What do you expect?" This is a story posted by Weird White Crypto about an experience that his friend Josh had. This encounter occurred in a trailer park called Wilshire Hills in Norfolk, Iowa. And this park is kind of away from the city and is bordered by sprawling cornfields. And Josh is a middle school aged kid who lives in the park. And on this particular occasion is hanging out with his friend James. And on this night, Josh and James are hanging out at the trailer next to Josh's, trying to get the girl who lives there to come out and hang out with them. It's summertime, so the air is warm and balmy. The skies are clear, and the moon, while not full, is out enough that it dimly lights the ground all around them. And Josh's neighbor's place is right on the edge of the trailer park, so it borders one of those sprawling cornfields. And there's also this big open park area that has a public playground with swings and slides, and it's big enough that you can actually play a game of baseball or football. And the girl that they're talking to, her bedroom is located on one end of the trailer, so it has 2 windows. And Josh and James are each at one of the windows, and they're both saying, come on, just sneak out and come out and hang out with us. And the window that Josh is standing at is opposite some other trailers. But the window that James is standing in front of looks out over that park area and the cornfields. So here they are talking to this girl. And Josh finally gets tired of trying to get her to come out. And he starts walking around the corner to where his friend James is, because he's going to tell James, come on, let's go. But as he comes around the corner, he becomes paralyzed with fear. This is what he saw. A humanoid creature. 2 arms, 2 legs, but it's walking on all 4s. It's completely naked, and its legs are inverted at the knee joint, kind of like a bird's legs. And it's walking near the edge of the cornfields, minding its own business like the last thing it would ever expect to encounter is a human. And Josh says to James, "Don't turn around." And of course, because of the look on Josh's face, James has to turn around. And it seems as though James's action of turning around is enough movement to catch this creature's attention. Because as soon as he does, the creature shoots up and sits upright with its arms perched up like a squirrel does when it's standing on its hind legs. And there is this very brief 3-way exchange of "what the hell are you?" between Josh, James, and the creature. And during this brief moment, Josh is able to get a much clearer view of this thing. Its skin is chalk white. Its body is skinny, sinewy, lean, and defined. On its 2 legs, it's between 4 and 5 feet tall. Its cranium looks slightly larger than a human's. It has large, shiny, pure black opaque eyes, a small, narrow mouth, and not so much of a protruding nose, but more like 2 slits in its face for nostrils. And its facial structure is kind of akin to what it would look like if you stretched latex over a human face. And once this brief moment of bewilderment ends for all parties, the creature suddenly hunches down back onto all 4s and bolts fast. It runs away across the open lawn and into the cornfields. It spans a distance of 40 to 50 yards in 4 to 5 leaps. And that is the last they saw of it. End of story. The writer of this story didn't give his name, so we will refer to him as Miles. It's Christmas night, 2007, along a darkened rural back road in upstate New York. And as Miles makes his way along a very dark, secluded patch of road that has barren fields on either side and woods set back beyond that, he comes across something very odd walking on the opposite side of the road, coming in his direction. As the figure blooms up out of the night, Miles realizes it's not a person. It stands on two long legs, with two long arms hanging down from its shoulders. It looks strong, lean, and muscular, but not beefy and thin at the same time. It stands at least 7 feet tall. It's light-colored, white, tan, yellow, maybe grayish, and it doesn't appear to have fur, but there's some kind of texture to the skin. It's not smooth. Miles can see something coming down off its back, but he can't tell what it is. And he can see that its face has small features, but the mouth and the jaw are much larger. It has 2 pointed things on its head, 2 things that go straight up with something mingled in between them. And that's what he gets from his quick scan and observation of it as it nears him and the car nears it. As his car becomes parallel to it, in a split second, he goes from looking at it out his windshield to looking at it out his driver's side window. In that moment, its face quickly peers down at him, and all Miles can remember is the wide open mouth. And out comes this remarkable scream that sends chills throughout Miles' entire body. A high-pitched, shrill shriek that's also enveloped in this guttural growl. Both sounds happen simultaneously in that scream. Miles keeps driving. It all happened so fast, and he doesn't have a chance to even be in shock or afraid or anything. But later on, he is in total shock after it all sinks in. Had his driver's side window been open fully, that thing would have touched him, or worse yet, would have taken him. Miles is certain of it. This tale is from Reddit user Yeeter Meter. We'll just call him Pete. When Pete was about 12 years old, he would play tag with his friends next door. One night, they're playing as usual, and as Pete is hiding under the tight crawl space under the deck, he smells the stench of rotten meat and sees a black mass of something turn to face him. So he acts like any normal 12-year-old and starts scrambling to get out from underneath that deck. And as soon as he emerges, tag, and he totally writes off everything that he has just seen and turns his attention to somebody crawling up into the treehouse. So he runs over to the treehouse and hides behind some bushes, waiting for whoever's up there to come down so he can tag him. Pete waits in the cover of the bushes for about 5 minutes until he gets impatient and decides he's just going to crawl up into the treehouse and tag whoever's up there. But once he gets up there, he realizes there's nobody there. But there is a second story to this treehouse. And as he puts his foot onto a step up to the second floor, a slimy, damp hand wraps tightly around his ankle. In complete panic, he wiggles his foot free, but falls over the rail and hits his head pretty hard. When Pete finally opens his eyes, he sees an 8-foot-tall thing standing directly over him. But he can't move. He tries to scream, but nothing happens. And it's not sleep paralysis. Pete's actually had sleep paralysis before, but this is different. The thing shoots down and wraps its hand around Pete's throat, bends down next to his ear, and whispers, and as soon as the word comes out of its mouth, Pete can move again, and the thing is gone. But Pete does exactly as he is told and runs. This encounter is from Reddit user Kylie. Through the summer of 2014, Kylie used to climb up on her roof to smoke. Chalk it up on teenagers needing to do dangerous things. Well, she'd made a habit of it for years, and it was just sort of a fun thing for her to do back then. She really liked the peaceful vibe while stargazing and watching the sunsets while she's blowing smoke rings. And one night she's doing her usual routine, hand rolling a smoke while she's sitting in the middle part that divides the roof over the garage. And she'd been so caught up in being careful about getting to her spot that it took her a while to notice something kind of strange on the shed roof about 20 feet away. It's a gray, lanky, emaciated, sinewy-looking creature. And at first, Kylie's brain cannot even process what she is seeing, and she's thinking it's gotta be a hallucination, and her whole body is frozen. But she knows she'd better snap out of it, because if this thing is real, she could be in mortal danger. The creature has a silvery, membrane, fleshy look, unnatural skin covered sparsely in unkempt patches of white hair. Its skin seems to glow ever so slightly reflectively in the moonlight. It's very golem-like, but somehow thinner, more primitive and wild-looking. And its eyes flash with a cat-like glimmer, signaling to Kylie that it has at least some level of nocturnal vision. And it's postured in kind of a crab-like bipedal position, which actually Kylie thought was kind of funny because she had just been in that same position a few minutes ago while crawling up onto her roof. And it turns its head to her in kind of a questioning, puzzling kind of way, like it's surprised to see her there. When she starts to slowly move, it mimics her, like it's mirroring her, which, right or wrong, Kylie takes as a sign of aggression. Maybe curiosity, but it didn't feel welcoming. And as she stares at it more, she can tell it isn't human. Or if it ever had been, it was so long ago, because its entire form is twisted and evil looking. She instinctively pivots around, dashes across the roof, launches herself into her window, turns around, slams the window down, locks it, and drops the curtains. And she does not look out that window, because to her, it feels like if she does, that thing will kill her. This tale is told by Reddit user Jack Black, but not that Jack Black. Jack leaves his mother's house and is driving back to his own down a dark back road that he has taken 1,000,000 times. He knows this road like the back of his hand and could drive it blindfolded in reverse. Not that he's actually done that. He's getting to about the halfway point down this road when he runs into a blanket of thick fog. Not really a surprise, as there's fog on this road all the time. However, it forces him to drive a little slower, and he starts taking turns that he doesn't remember. There's a 90-degree right when it should have been a left, followed by a wide turn that feels like a full circle. And then he drives straight for about 5 minutes with no hills or dips. And that road never has a section that flat for that long. And he comes to a left turn up a hill. And as the car starts leaning into the hill, all of the hair on Jack's body stands straight up. Now he almost stops and turns around right there. He doesn't know why, but he decides to keep going. But he is unnerved enough that he grabs his gun from his glove box and sets it on his lap. And when he looks back to the road, some dude is just crouched in the middle of the road. Jack slams on his brakes, and the guy doesn't even flinch. And Jack starts thinking it must be just some dude out frog hunting or something, because there's a lot of people on that road that do just that. So Jack honks his horn, and the guy stands up. He is massive. He is like 7.5 feet tall, thin as a mother, and arms that are just too long. And it doesn't look like he has any clothes on either. And Jack lays on his horn and clicks the safety off his pistol just in case. And this guy turns his head what looks like a full 180, and his eyes have that predator glow like a wolf or a cat. Jack raises his gun, leans out the window, and yells, "Get lost!" And it starts walking towards him. And Jack tries to pull the trigger, but the gun doesn't fire. Hammer clicks, but no boom. So Jack whips the car around faster than he ever has in his life and goes speeding down the road at least 20 miles an hour over the speed limit. About 30 seconds after he turns that car around, he realizes that he again recognizes all the turns and hills of the road. He is driving down the road like he had never taken that first right. And Jack later goes back during the day, and he still can't figure out where he took a wrong turn. There are no side streets down that road that are paved, and certainly no straightaways as long as the one that he drove. He then goes to the shooting range a day or two later and puts that same round in the chamber of his pistol, and it fires. No problem. He has no idea what happened, and he doesn't drive that way at night anymore. So if you feel like you need more creepy crawlers in your life, click here. Be careful out there, and we will see you again on the In-Between.